Good evening, Danvers. Welcome to the June 5th, 2019 Topics of the Town News. We have tonight John Toomey as a co-host and Matt Duggan.
Good evening.
Joining us again, and I'm glad you're here. This has become a more balanced presentation of the issues. Sometimes I'm overwhelming, and we have to get back into the reality, I guess.
Share the pain.
So, Topics of the Town News reporting is direct and comprehensive of stories that no one wants to report. We will always report only the truth, sometimes with our opinion included. That's only natural. Tonight, we have a sad story to report because on May 28th, the last part of the 2.5 limited taxation organization, Barbara Anderson, died a few years back. And on May 28th, Chip Faulkner, who was her associate director and for the Citizens of Limited Taxation, died. And now we have a big gap in there because those two individuals basically led us into this controlled budget and spending because our tax calculations were going out of sight. And back in, I think it was 84, that this was brought back, and it's been in existence all this time. So Chip Faulkner will live on with Barbara Anderson as the limited taxation organization. The other story that we have is a little bit more cheerful. Family Festival. We have received the booklets. I think every homeowner in the town received the 40th annual Danvers Family Festival. You want to add something to that?
Yeah, they mailed out over 13,000 books, but there's still some available, I believe, at the Y and at some of the local businesses, but not as diversified as they were in the past. So we targeted them to people's homes.
The one thing that is happening is, let me look at the calendar. I think it begins on June 12th. In the center. There we go.
It's quite an affair, that's for sure.
It is. It starts on June 12th with the Danvers Places Art Association with the Williams School, and continues through July 4th, which will be the Highlands Horribles Parade, and I love that one. That one is a lot of fun, and it's local, it's family.
But also it's a variety.
That's
Everybody can see something that they like.
And there's also the same day, right after the Horribles Parade in Highlands, is the Back Bay Parade, which is also a neighborhood-oriented family, and it's been going on for many, many years. So look out for the Family Festival beginning on June 12th. So it'll still run 3 weeks, but it's no longer what it grew up to be, because it did grow to an extent where families from Danvers were almost excluded from the festivities.
Well,
John?
it's become a community, more or less.
Now it's become a community-oriented.
Yes.
I remember back in the 80s, we used to be able to go to the Twyfield, behind the fence, and put our blankets down at 8 o'clock in the evening. We were able to get to there. Fireworks went off over the river, and it was more family-oriented. And neighborhood-oriented, because neighborhoods used to come down.
Yes.
So, welcome to Family Festival. It continues. All right. The next issue that I think we want to address is finally we'll go through the town meeting and the town budget for education costs in Danvers. And I know that I made a big appeal to the selectmen and to the town meeting members that we do have to consider the residents who pay the bills. See, everybody forgets who is the cash cow. And we have a cash cow is every single resident that lives in this town that owns a piece of property.
Yeah, but one of the problems is that cash cow isn't yelling, isn't screaming, isn't hollering.
It hasn't realized how bad the taxes are and that they're continuously going up. But one of the big contributors, and like I said in my little speech, is that we passed a $121 million budget with a vote of 120 and to 1, which was my vote no, because I think the budget is bloated. Education budget controversy became the issue from town meeting. The contributors to the controversy who brought up the issues are basically bringing up the issues because they're concerned about the quality of our education that we provide to our children. The report on the Danvers education budget controlled by the school committee is only a part of what our costs are. So what I did is I added up all of the components, and it finally comes up to be around $75 million out of that 121. So basically it leaves us $50 million, let's say, $56 million for everything else. And that includes DPW, police, fire, and all those services.
So you're running 90% of the town at practically half the price as you're running the schools.
Absolutely. And I think the town manager and the department heads are doing a wonderful job of what they have to work with. Because I don't know how the town manager survives spending $75 million for education and only $56 million for the necessary services that we provide to our residents.
Yeah, but the town manager runs the town under the direction of selectmen and school committee.
You're pulling me back again because I'm always blaming the town manager, but you're right. The town manager only responds to the direction that he gets. I don't think he gets any direction. That's the problem. The town manager is running the town as he sees fit without any input from the selectmen. The selectmen are asleep at the switch, and they've been there for years. The problem is that sooner or later this budget crunch is going to come and bite us in behind, and we're not doing anything about it. But to continue the story, the issues that have been brought up at town meeting, and maybe it was the wrong place, but I think people are so frustrated that the school committee and the town selectmen are not doing anything about controlling the education budget or improving the quality of education for our children, that's the only place that would listen. And that is a place where people can express their views.
But where do the schools stand in comparison to other areas?
Well, I have invited Mr. Billings to come to our show, and maybe he'll show up next show on June 20th. I think we need to ask him that. But what he has presented is that the quality of education of our students compared to surrounding communities is either at average or below average. of those communities.
Well, isn't that discouraging?
Well, that's the problem.
Isn't that alarming?
That was brought up to the population in town at town meeting. Nobody said anything.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, I think town meeting is ultimately the body that's responsible for how the money's being spent. So it's not the town manager, it's not necessarily the selectmen. But I don't think town meeting is really engaged in the process. To show up at town meeting and vote, that's kind of a snapshot in time.
Yeah, but town meeting only votes on what is given to them by
Finance committee
the
and
selectmen.
Well, they vote yes consistently. You'd be surprised at how fast you can spend 121 million. So
it only took 15 minutes.
well, you know, if you people pushed back and said we don't vote no, that would force the issue, right?
Well, I voted no, and look what happened.
Well, I
Nothing.
know, but that's the point, right? So if people just go along to get along, this is what we get, kind of a
Apathy.
level of mediocrity.
Mediocrity, apathy in voting, and everything else. And this is the interest that John has been pushing all the time. Get interested and get involved in what's going on in our town.
Yeah. Well,
But there was a bright spot in this whole education discussion, which you and I sat, Matt and I sat through the Finance Committee meeting. And as a result of that, if you can show clip 1-1, we have found a bright spot. There's the Essex Tech. That is the brand new Essex Technical High School that is run by Heidi Riccio. She's the superintendent, and a school committee from 17 different communities. But it accepts students from 50-some communities. So they get to experience an academic, technical, and agricultural type of education. So what we have here is that Danvers, at this time, has 150 students that are going and are being paid for by the town of Danvers. They're getting the Essex Tech is getting $2.5 million, which is roughly $17,000 per student. We have grown from a number that was much lower in the beginning. This has been in existence about 5 years. And we went to Essex Tech, John, Matt, and myself, to do an interview with the superintendent. And we also did a tour of the different schools and different facilities that are under that one roof. So what was your impression, Matt? I mean,
I think it's a great alternative for people that don't necessarily want to go down the path towards going to college, because we know that that's not for everyone. And this is this education at Essex North Shore is focused. People go there with expectations that can be fulfilled. I think what we saw during our tour was just the educators that were there were totally engaged and were excited to be there. So
we saw a lot of the technical and hands-on education that was going on.
Well, that's what impressed me.
Electricity, plumbing, machine shop.
There was also like graphic arts, so
Correct.
it was a wide breadth of different
Cosmetology,
yeah.
which is, we may need some makeup
Well,
someday.
see, what struck me when I went through this is the first time I have to admit, I have never seen anything quite like this. I never really expected what I did see. But what really impressed me, this is a opportunity for a great number of our Danvers students. Here is, you can go to school And basically, when you graduate, you coming out, and you more than likely have a job. You could come out, you'd be a union member, you have just about done all the necessary work and education and so forth to get your license for plumbing, electricity, and so forth. I mean, this is something that in my generation, when I first was growing up, a high school education was the big thing. And now it's college. But back then, when I was growing up, again, a high school education was the big thing. But it was an education of intelligence, more or less. This is a school of ability. Do you have the abilities to do these things? And it shows you how to do them. And not only shows you how to do them, but when you graduate, as I say, it opens up the opportunity for jobs. And that, to me, is probably one of the most important opportunities that there is.
Right.
John, one of the things, I want to promote this presentation because I think all of us contributed to this. And we have a two-part presentation about the Essex Tech in Danvers, Middleton, it's in Danvers, but it's down by the jail. And what we have done is we did a extensive interview with the superintendent for the first part. She gave us the history, the background, the extent of education. One of the things that I asked and we gathered was that the school is built for 1,600 students. Now, currently, I think they're only at 1,400. So what they're looking at is they need to fill some seats in upper grade levels because some have gone away by attrition or decision not to stay in town or go someplace else. However, they have always had a waiting list for positions in the freshman class. What she was telling us, Heidi was telling us, is that there are, I think, roughly 300 seats, or more than closer to 400 seats, that will go to the freshmen. And they have 1,400 applications. So it's like 3 to 1, 4 to 1. And it's a very well run school, and they don't take any discipline issues because they will not let them stay there. But the one thing that I also gathered from the interviews is that Essex Tech has achieved academic levels that are comparable or maybe even exceed some of the academic levels in the Danvers school system, Danvers High School, and or any other local school. So maybe they've gone a little too far in that direction, but those kids are graduating and they can go to college, they can go to work, they can go to further training, and that's what it's all about. So the unions are getting involved in this, and that will help stabilize the workforce.
Well, that's
in
the
area.
big thing. This offers you the opportunity
Right.
and the ability to go on to something when you graduate.
That's right. And they're qualified to do that.
Well, that's the big thing. They're qualified.
Yeah, it's a solid introduction into a solid middle class career,
Right.
which is difficult these days. Not like when with our parents who, there were a lot of manufacturing jobs and.
So what we'll do is on education costs in Danvers, we'll continue briefly at the June 20th meeting with Mr. Billings when he is available. And we'll wrap that up and move on. Maybe we can go and visit Danvers High School.
Well, when this tour that we did, it's going to be
It's being televised right now. It's on the
Okay.
schedule. That's why I asked David, and we are on the schedule, so we have to look at the itinerary for the daily showings. So we'll.
And there are 2 shows.
Yeah, 2 parts, one after the other, but I broke it up because 2 hours worth of Essex Tech was going to be too much. So you can alternate if you need to. All right. Next story is, and I have to apologize, I did not watch the Board of Selectmen's meeting, but Matt attended that meeting.
I did.
So could you just give us a little rundown of what transpired?
Sure. The highlight of the meeting was a review of the coming fiscal year, which begins on July 1st. So we had the town's finance director, Rodney Conley, give us a presentation, along with the town manager, Steve Bartha. And we reviewed much of the material that had been shared during the Finance Committee hearings. There was an issue now with, in terms of revenue. We've sort of maxed out revenue to service our debt. With the new Smith School financing coming online, we're kind of maxed out in terms of what we can raise through property taxes and the such. So the financing for the Smith School, and this was a hot item during the warrant article discussions with Finance Committee and with the Selectmen, because there's an option of doing a 20-year bond or a 30-year bond, and the 30-year is a considerable amount of interest associated with that. So that was discussed during the meeting, along with some of the costs associated with employee health care, and also for the OPEB retirement monies, which are unfunded liabilities and won't be fully funded until 2035, I believe. So we were, Rodney presented some comparisons with some surrounding towns, such as Andover and Linfield, who seem to be in a better position, but the per capita income in those communities is much higher than it is in Danvers. So I think that's what puts them in a more favorable light. When we were compared to Peabody or Salem, we seem to be doing better. But it's
the issue on the retirement, OPEB liability, and the benefits that are planned for our employees are such that this is the best town to work in. Retirement is great. The health benefits are at 75% paid by the town and 25% by town employees. So I think one of the things that has happened in the past is that the town management needs to evaluate whether we're able to sustain that type of a benefit for our employees.
You just said something that this is part of the things that confuse me. You use the word management.
Right.
Management does not specifically run the town. It's the selectmen who run the town. They have been given the authority by the voters of this town to run the town, make sure it functions right. And this is what disturbs me, in that they keep bringing in more projects, more development, and spending more money, and the end result, as Matt was talking, they're running out of money. And yet for 11 straight years now, the tax rate has gone up. So what does that tell you?
Tell you that it's mismanaged.
Here's a group of guys that are responsible for the spending, and yet it's obvious that they're overspending compared to what they have for income. That doesn't make sense.
See, the thing that disturbed me when I was reviewing and analyzing the budget is that every line item that's related to salaries, benefits, retirement, OPEB liability is all funded before anything else is funded, so it's fully funded. And the taxes in this town, I call it tax to the max, because that's exactly what they're doing, is they're taxing the heck out of us. Looking at your comments in regards to the debt exclusion that was sort of silenced for a while because they heard what the debt exclusion issue is going to happen, is that during the elections they didn't want to have anything to do with it. So what has happened now, we're after the elections, and the town selectmen are going to start introducing other ways of getting money. Our problem is not revenue. We have enough revenue. The problem is that we're spending too much before we receive that revenue.
What other forms of revenue are there other than taxes?
That we have state revenue coming in that is shared.
Cherry sheet.
There's sales tax revenue that is shared with us. There is new vehicle
The
excise tax, meals tax. We've maxed out everything. The problem is that we're spending too much, and that's where the selectmen are at fault.
Yeah, but the town meeting has approved the spending, so that's
Town meeting.
the buck stops with them.
Town meeting is not very active in this town.
Well, that's where the blame lies. They're the ones that,
Well, the
that
blame
spend
goes
the money.
back to the average voter in
That's
town.
right.
They don't participate.
Yeah,
What,
yeah.
1/4 to 1/3 of the voters, registered voters, actually vote? I mean, then you got the town being run by a few thousand people. That doesn't make sense.
Well, we're really run by less than 200 people, I'll tell you that. So that's
Yeah.
where the action is.
So I just wanted to mention one other thing. When you talk about sustainability, that's why the debt exclusion is, and that's where we go to the voters and ask if you want to exclude the 2.5 cap on a specific project, which in this case would be the Smith School. The debt exclusion is the opportunity to see where the voters stand on this issue, because going down the road, we're in an economy currently that's low inflation and decent 2 or 3% growth year over year. That's not sustainable. At some point, we're bound to hit a recession where the property values will go down, the tax revenues will be decreased.
Those are scare tactics that are being used to influence the voters or the residents in this town to allow to be taxed more. That is such a fallacy. This is where Mr. Faulkner and Barbara Anderson have been fighting this battle for the last 30, 40 years. The problem is that we're spending every penny that is available to us, whether it's sustainable revenue or special revenue that is being distributed by the state, or sales tax or excise tax. We have maximized every single account, and we have also taxed to the max on the real estate taxes, because we cannot go any higher. So the problem is that the selectmen and the town manager are ignoring the people that own property in this town and pay the taxes. How much longer can that go on? And the thing is, I don't know, this has been a discussion for years. The problem with this debt exclusion is that what they're doing is they're giving themselves flexibility to spend more money, more of your tax money. The issues with the bond issue for the high school and now the Smith School is that the town managers and the selectmen at that time allowed the bond issue to be level stream of repayments. The problem is Wayne, in his wisdom at that time, wouldn't allow to go through a declining payment schedule because he would have been influenced in his decision making because he would have to make higher payments in the beginning, and that should have been declining.
Right.
Now, the current town manager is doing exactly the same thing with the support of the Board of Selectmen because they want more money to spend. If they only designed the repayment schedule as a declining bond issue, they have the money in the bank right now to support the higher payments in the beginning of this bond issue.
Peak years, yeah.
We have set that up back in 97, 99, I think. 97 or 99. Emery Todd and I were on the board. Pat Fraser was on the board. And that was Emery Todd's insurance policy, basically, for building schools. And that was really for the Highlands, not the Highlands, Holt and Richmond at that time, because there was a lot of discussion about 2.5 override, and we had to fight 2.5 override. And this town does not like 2.5 overrides. Debt exclusion is no different than a 2.5 override, except it's for a shorter period of time.
Well, as a side issue, the selectmen have pushed the zoning, the new zoning that we have, the overlay district and so forth, basically because they want to increase the number of taxable housing in town.
The
And
stock of the homes, yes.
They're looking for sources, as you say, new sources of revenue, because they basically, from what you're telling me, is that basically they're overspent.
They tax to the max. That's how they've been doing it for
Yes.
the last 20 years. And the problem is that people are not realizing what's happening. So I've been preaching that game, and so we will go on. One of the things that we need to do is I think I'm going to go to the next selectmen's meeting and raise hell. But next story that we have, do you have anything else to add about the selectmen?
I think it's just we're basically kicking the can down the road in terms of not
That's right.
dealing with it. And, you know, people, I'm a town meeting member, people never contact me to say that they're paying too much in taxes. I don't know about you. People are just not engaged, so I don't know. Maybe there's a correlation between what you pay in taxes and what the value of your home is. But that's a discussion for another time.
That is a scare tactic that's been used by town government and the selectmen because they believe that there's a relationship. There may be some, but not influencing the value of your home. You're paying too much taxes, and that's what we need to explore that a little further. So, other than that, selectmen have been sort of uneventful. They're in their trend of moving.
It's summertime.
Get along to get along, right? So, next story I have is just to bring you up to date on a few items. DPW garage. I went to the Water and Sewer Board meeting, and there was really nothing discussed in regard to this warrant article on building the new office building for an additional $475,000. But the one thing is very clear. our water rates are going to go up 8 to 10%, maybe even more, because they've passed every single warrant article, and all those warrant articles related to the water and sewer are paid for by the users of the system, or the ratepayers. Okay, that's next item that I think we need to bring people up to date is you have plastic bag discussion. Clip 3-1.
Two things, basically. Obviously, if you've been out shopping, you found out no plastic bags. You've got to have reusable bags, paper bags, and so forth. One of the nice things I found was that Target is giving you paper bags. They're not charging you. So that's a good start. Another thing is reusable bags. Town Hall has been collecting them, and now they're giving them away. All you have to do is go over to Town Hall, go in the main office, and there's a big bucket full of reusable plastic bags.
Which office is that?
Right in
the lobby,
it's
I
the
In the
lobby.
lobby?
Yeah,
Oh, great.
it's fantastic.
Well,
I'm surprised in talking to people. They came up with living without plastic bags. I'm rather surprised that they were able to do it this quickly. No one really seems to be having any problems. But the stores like Target giving you the plastic bags, that solved the problem right there. If they continue to do it, we don't have a problem.
John, I'll give you a little story. I was in Market Basket, as a matter of fact, either yesterday or the day before. And I had a few items that really fit in one paper bag. And I asked the girl, are we paying for these? She said, no. But you know what I noticed is that when you pack your groceries into the paper bag, which is pretty square, it's rectangular, and you pack them correctly, you bring them out in one hand, and it's like deja vu all over again, 1960s. So there's nothing, unusual, because we should be using paper bags anyway. We always ask for them for newspaper disposal with the recycle. So that's a great idea. So let's see what happens.
It's a way of life, hopefully.
All right, next item is we have Memorial Day Parade. John went to the parade, and clip 4-1 and then 4-2.
Beautiful, beautiful day for a parade.
Look at that.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, there was a nice crowd watching, and the parade itself was very nice. Brings back an awful lot of memories.
That's our police department. Now look at that dog. That's a new dog, too.
Yes. But that's the new way of life, too,
Yeah.
the police dog.
And there's our infamous ladder.
Yeah.
Ladder truck.
Yes.
That was Jimmy Simons driving that.
Was it? Well, the firemen look very proud looking at the audience. But you know what? They're always ready to go. And I've seen them sometimes when they were on detail that they pick up and go.
That's your tax dollars at
Well,
work.
This is money well spent, I'll tell you that.
Yes.
Yes.
We want the best equipment for them.
Their motto is preventative.
Yes.
Fire prevention is more important than firefighting.
Well, police and fire, to me anyway, are really tough jobs. I really appreciate men and women who volunteer to become fire or policemen. It's just fantastic.
They go through a lot of education before they get hired on.
There's the Civil Air Patrol. I don't know if
Yeah.
you people are familiar with that, but I haven't seen that in years. God, I was a 14, 15-year-old kid when I joined the Civil Air Patrol at Beverly Airport. Fantastic. We did some flying. I learned how to fly.
You were a pilot?
No, that's an interesting story. I'll tell you sometime.
Okay. And there's our famous band.
Isn't that fantastic?
They do such a great job. Mr. Parsons is retiring this year. I
Yes,
think.
yes.
So hopefully we'll get somebody to take over and continue the history.
But that is fantastic for the kids in school who can belong to that. It's and that in itself is an education. How to learn something and do something.
As a team. This is teamwork as well.
Yes.
All right. Do we have the other clip after that? 4-2. Oh, that was both. So continue. I thought we were breaking it up. The parade was well attended by the residents. I was
Danvers Girl Scouts.
there. Yep.
I thought they discontinued the Girl Scouts.
The Girl Scouts now can join the Boy Scouts troop. And I don't know whether Boy Scouts can join the Girl Scout troops, so that's a different story. But they had a great day for it, and they did a good job. All right, the next story that we'd like to discuss is the Senior Center walking path at the Senior Center, clip 5-1 and then 5-2. John, you want to explain?
Just to try and straighten out some confusion, Danvers Council on Aging. We call it the Senior Center, but if you start to ask anybody in authority, they call it the Council on Aging.
Still the Senior Center.
It's still the Senior Center, yes. It's a beautiful place. I'm talking basically to my generation now. They have great meals. They have wonderful fairs going on. And they also have a walking path. And this is something that,
There we go.
there we go. It's right across from the main entrance to the Senior Center. You just walk straight down. You go over a little bridge.
That was Eagle Scout project, that bridge.
Is it?
And this is the path. You come down over the bridge and you come out to the school that's on the opposite side, and this is fantastic. Again, my age group. If you have something where you need a exercise, you need walking, but you're not a marathoner. This is 3/4 of a mile long, and it's very nice. Can you continue this?
That's it. That's it.
Oh, you didn't
Yeah,
get
this
the
is
whole
right-
thing? Okay, it's just a circle.
Right.
It's a hot top circle. It just goes around the back of the school.
That's
And-
part of the Highland School.
Highland School.
Yep. Right.
In the center, there's a playground
Right.
for the school. And depending upon what hour you go out, if you like watching kids, you can go out and see the whole kids out there. Or you can go out when the kids are all in school and you have the whole area to yourself, more or less.
Okay.
But the big thing, for my age group anyway, is this is a small walking path.
Right.
It's not a bike path, it's not a running path, and if, like a lot of the seniors, you can't walk that well, you can't walk that far, this
Oh,
is a
that fast, yeah.
fantastic thing. And this is right across from the senior center. Bingo.
So what we have is a combination of Highlands Grammar School, the Senior Center, and then on the back of the Senior Center is a big soccer field that they play
Yes.
soccer all the time. So it's a combination of young, middle, and aged
Yes.
individuals, so they have to respect each other's
Presence.
presence. That's right. And you know what? It's a good combination.
Oh, it's fantastic. And having gone to the senior center and enjoyed various situations over there, it is fantastic.
Well,
And
we've been meaning to go to the senior center and do some documentary presentation. Maybe what we should do is arrange something and do a 1 hour show
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
on
Yeah.
what's available, what can you do, and now is the right time. The summer is here. You got
Yes.
the barbecues outside. You got the brick outside.
Bocce.
Yeah, bocce.
Well, the
courts.
senior center, it's good in that, again, my age group. You get to meet people. You get to socialize. It gives you the opportunity to do things, and that makes a big difference.
All right, John. So we've got the senior path, the senior center path, Memorial Day, and we also have plastic bags. Now, just a quick update on story number 4, which really is Matt's. I just want to put in my 2 cents in regard to the warrant article that was passed and issued at town meeting for the shuttle service. The shuttle service, Danvers MBTA. I got a listing of all the contributions that Danvers makes to the MBTA. Now, every once a day, maybe twice a day, you see a bus go through the square, and what it does is basically takes people from one side of town to Liberty Tree Mall and maybe to the North Shore Mall. And then it comes back. This proposal that was approved and it was presented, it's a grant. It's state money. It's the money that we would have received for the MBTA payments, but now they've asked for a grant to study access of private individuals for private companies at Cumming Center and at Cherry Hill Park.
Okay, I
So-
disagree with you.
Well, that's okay.
It's a test. It's,
Pilot, yeah.
is it worth bringing the shuttle service to Danvers? Are there enough people who would use it, who need it? And this is a test. It's going to show you that by creating a connection with transportation between 2 centers, you're going to get a lot of people who will use it. And it will reduce the amount of cars on the road.
Then I agree with you, John.
Then what's your complaint?
My beef here is that we have already spent every single year $631,000 dedicated to the MBTA service that we get. Why not take the MBTA and put them to task that, hey, this is not what we need because there's nobody ever on these buses, and redirect them to what purpose they can get. They can get.
You want me to
be
give you
used.
an answer to that?
Absolutely.
Talk to Teddy Spiliotis, your state rep.
And he
The
would listen.
reason this is being done is private citizens, business and citizens have put it together and got it done. And Teddy, why didn't you do it?
That's right.
Yeah, but
Well-
can I just chime in on this? Because this shuttle service, this pilot program, is for a very targeted audience. So it's people that get off at North Beverly T Station, commuter rail. So that audience are people coming either from North Station or from Newburyport, Rockport.
Oh, Gloucester.
So and the van only goes to Cherry Hill Park to service
Yes.
specific businesses, employers.
Right.
So those are the businesses are the ones that should be funding this.
So the point is,
Well, the point is, it doesn't really help with traffic in Danvers because the people are already taking
But it's a
public
test, and if it proves that you can get people to use it, it will expand what you need right now. And again, I'm talking about my group, my age group, the senior citizen group. I go for a walk every day, and bad weather, I go down to Liberty Tree Mall. Why? It's air conditioned, it's got heat, and if it's raining, I can go inside. It's fantastic. But also one of the things that happens down there is there are groups of people who meet down there and socialize. We have a cup of coffee and shoot the breeze for an hour or so. But the point is, if they don't have cars and if they can't drive, they can't get there. What this town needs is transportation. Transportation to get people not only into Liberty Tree Mall, but around town, but most important, to get people from Danvers to Beverly to Salem to Peabody.
and that's a regional system.
And that's an expensive
MBTA,
solution.
that's what this test is about.
No, this test is about a shuttle van, and that's very
shuttle.
expensive.
Shuttle,
Yeah,
that's the word.
point A
You're
to
gonna
point
have a
B.
shuttle. If this works, then this gives this group of people the emphasis and the proof that a shuttle will work.
Yep.
And that's when you gotta talk to Teddy to get the money to fund
Well,
it.
MBTA is already getting paid from us.
If you're already
as
paying for it,
taxpayers.
how come we don't have a shuttle service in Danvers?
Well, that's where Teddy comes into play. He
Well-
has not produced that. But there's also another item on here that I noticed, is that there's a regional transit component that MBTA provides, which is, in Gloucester, is very big, because I see $369,000, but they don't have any MBTA service. So why not institute a regional service for the industrial sectors of Beverly and Danvers, and forget about this MBTA. MBTA doesn't do a damn thing for us in downtown.
Whatever it takes.
That's right.
No,
So
it does. They take 2 buses in the morning, 2 buses in the afternoon, go right to Salem Depot. So that's I've used that in the past. So
have you?
that's so you're not forced to drive your car to Salem. You can take the bus, and there's a number of people that use that service. So
You don't want to drive to Salem anyway. All right. So what we have left, we're running out of time, but I think we've covered all our important
Bullets,
stories. Next show, we'll be talking a lot more into the planning department update and maybe on the current status of meetings for the second phase of the Maple Street overlay. And I made a slight comment on here that state funds of $200,000 received as a bribe to produce congested housing has been received. So as a result of the overlay zoning, the town under 40R has generated $200,000 of new revenue for the town.
To be used
To be used, whatever they want to use it for, I think it's to expand the facilities and the streets in those areas where this housing is going to be built. But it's going to be congested housing.
yeah,
Now-
but it's going to happen anyway. So this is smart growth.
Not
So if
necessarily.
you go to Cherry Street, you see the development on School Street. Developers are coming to town because the land is much less expensive than it is closer to the urban core. So
Yeah, well,
we need to manage the growth.
I'm just looking at some articles that I found recently as restrictions, politics, snub housing growth. What is happening is that the state, in their desperation of getting people out of Boston, because Boston is getting too gentrified and the housing costs are so high and the congestion is so high in downtown, that they want the state to provide an avenue to remove zoning laws and make it easier for developers to build housing outside of the cities, the large cities, and to overrule our zoning laws, local zoning laws. So they want to impose, and we'll get into that next show, I think. That's going to be the education plus the growth, because that is an important issue. And what they're talking about is they're talking about having expanded zoning similar to what they've done for the Lee properties over into the square and beyond.
Right.
So, and they're talking about a special town meeting in November. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, the biggest thing that worries me is all this expansion that they're pushing, and they really aren't talking about traffic and parking. And to me, those are the biggest problems we're going to have.
That's right. And this is one of the items, parking and traffic issues. Traffic study is now available, but the parking that I noticed reviewing the parking study that was prepared 2 years ago is that they're proposing using public parking lots to support the development, because the development is going to be property line to property line with no parking available on that piece of land. So they're going to dedicate public parking to the developers so they can build their multifamily units.
Well, no matter where you go in Danvers, it's noticeable, and it's all the day. Like when you drive around town, it's very noticeable. The streets, A, are not that wide, and B, especially during busy hours of traffic, the streets have a lot of traffic on it, and they have a lot of parking on it. So it's terrible. The development of zoning is not going to do us any good parking or traffic.
Well, we want to manage it, and a lot of the traffic is just people driving through Danvers.
Yes.
It's not traffic within Danvers per se. So, this zoning relief or zoning improvements, that's town meeting, right? And so, we have full control over it. So when we go to special town meeting in the fall,
I'll vote no.
Yeah.
It won't do any good, but the thing is that people do not understand why we're getting into this mess. And as I said at town meeting, the last 40R was basically spot zoning for one individual in the part of town that it was implemented in.
Well,
We'll see
people
what
have to
happens.
get involved, otherwise you're going to really have a mess.
Next show is on June 20th, 7 p.m. on Thursdays. Next show. Thank you very much, Danvers. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
good night.